Hi, welcome to the Silent Avenger channel. If you're enjoying the content, please consider giving it a like and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive into today's story. My name's Mark, and I guess you could say I'm in the middle of a mess that isn't even mine. It's about my friend Summer, her son Jason, and his wife Emily, the most manipulative person I've ever come across. I've known Summer for years. She's like family to me. Jason's her only child, and she's done everything for him. Paid for his college, helped him buy his first house, and practically raised his daughter Lily when Jason and Emily were too busy finding themselves. Summer's got this big warm heart that people take advantage of. I've seen it too many times. A few months ago, Jason and Emily turned on her. They told her she was overbearing, controlling, and accused her of trying to ruin their marriage. That's not the Summer I know. The real reason? Emily wanted Summer out of the picture. She convinced Jason to move her into a retirement community. They didn't even give her a choice. Just showed up one day and said, "This is what's best for everyone." Summer called me the day it happened. She was crying so hard I could barely make out the words, but I got the gist. Jason and Emily kicked her out of her own house. Said she wasn't welcome there anymore. I drove over immediately, and when I got there, her stuff was already packed up in boxes. They didn't even give her the dignity of deciding what to take or leave. Jason wouldn't come out to face me, but Emily was all too happy to explain. She stood there with this fake smile and said, "Mark, you don't understand. Summer needs help, and we're just trying to give her that. It's a big adjustment for everyone." I wanted to say something, but Summer grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't. It's not worth it." So I didn't. Instead, I took her back to my place. She's been staying in my guest room ever since. But Emily isn't done. She started making these sly comments to mutual friends, painting me as some kind of meddler. The worst part? Jason's eating it up. He won't answer my calls, won't let me see Lily, and acts like I'm the problem. That's when I started digging into Emily. I don't know what I was looking for, maybe some kind of proof she's as bad as I think she is. What I found? It's worse. Much worse. I'll explain more in the next post, but let's just say Emily's got a pattern. Family she's isolated, people she's betrayed, and some stuff that might even be criminal. I don't know what I'm doing, honestly. I'm not a detective, just a guy trying to do the right thing. Summer deserves better than this. She's already been through enough. I'm not letting Emily destroy her, or me for that matter. If you've got advice, I'm all ears. This is just the beginning, and I have a feeling things are going to get a lot messier before they get better. So, like I said, I started digging into Emily. It wasn't just curiosity, it was necessity. The way she orchestrated kicking Summer out of her own house, like it was some kind of business deal, didn't sit right with me. People don't just wake up one day and become this calculated. They've got history. And Emily? She's got a mile of it. It started small. I reached out to a mutual friend who used to work with Emily. Let's call her Rachel. I figured Rachel might have some insight into Emily's personality, but the conversation went in a direction I didn't expect. Rachel told me Emily had left her old job abruptly, and no one knew why. One day she was a rising star in the HR department. The next day she was gone, her desk cleared out like she'd been fired. She was good at her job, Rachel said. Too good, maybe. She always seemed to know how to play people against each other. That got me curious, so I started looking into her previous employers. Turns out, Emily didn't just leave one job under suspicious circumstances, she left 3. Every time, there were whispers about inappropriate relationships and conflicts with management. But nothing concrete. Just enough to make her leave before things got messy. The deeper I dug, the darker it got. One night, I stayed up until 3 a.m. combing through old news articles and court records. I found something that made my stomach churn, a wrongful death lawsuit against a company Emily worked for years ago. A man, her supervisor, had died under suspicious circumstances. He fell down a flight of stairs in the office, and there was a lot of speculation about whether it was really an accident. Emily wasn't directly implicated, but she was named in the investigation as someone who'd had an adversarial relationship with the victim. Then there was Derek, Emily's brother. I didn't even know he existed until Summer mentioned him offhandedly one night. Apparently, Emily and Derek had a falling out years ago. No one knew why, but Summer described him as the only person Emily ever seemed afraid of. I tracked him down on social media and sent him a message. I didn't expect a reply, but he got back to me the next day. We met up at a coffee shop, and let me tell you, Derek did not hold back. Emily ruins people, he said, straight out the gate. She's a master manipulator. You think she's bad now? You should have seen her growing up. She would turn our parents against each other just for fun. I finally cut ties with her when she tried to steal money from me after my divorce. He told me Emily had a pattern: get close to people with something she could use, isolate them from everyone else, and then milk them dry before moving on. It's not just about money, Derek said. She feeds off control. If she can't control you, she destroys you. I asked if he'd ever tried to confront her or warn people about her. He laughed bitterly. You think anyone believes me? She's good at playing the victim. Every time I tried to expose her, she turned it back on me. Suddenly, I was the bitter brother with an agenda. Derek agreed to help me, but he warned me, be careful. If Emily thinks you're a threat, she'll come after you. She's not above lying, cheating, or worse. I left that meeting feeling equal parts validated and terrified. Emily wasn't just manipulative, she was dangerous. But I couldn't back down now. Summer deserved the truth, and I wasn't going to let Emily destroy anyone else. Next, I needed to get Jason on my side. That was going to be the hardest part, especially with Emily poisoning the well. But I couldn't do this without him. Getting Jason to listen to me felt like trying to reason with someone who'd already drunk the Kool-Aid. He wasn't just under Emily's influence, he was defending her, blindly and aggressively. The Jason I knew growing up wasn't like this. He was stubborn, sure, but never mean-spirited. Emily had twisted him into someone I barely recognized. I decided to try and reach him through Lily, his daughter. Lily's a smart kid, she's only 12, but she's sharp. She's also the one person who can still make Jason's face soften, even when he's in full-on Emily's puppet mode. I figured if I could show him how Emily's toxicity was affecting Lily, it might snap him out of whatever spell he was under. I started small, just picking Lily up from school when Jason and Emily were too busy, which was often. We'd go for ice cream, and she'd tell me about how things were at home. It didn't take long for her to open up. Grandma didn't do anything wrong, she told me one day, out of nowhere. I didn't even have to ask. She was just trying to help. But Dad says we can't talk to her anymore because it upsets Mom. I asked her how she felt about that, and she shrugged. It's dumb. Grandma's my favorite person. That hit me harder than I expected. Summer was the one who always made Lily's Halloween costumes, baked cookies for her school events, and stayed up late helping her with homework when Jason and Emily couldn't be bothered. Cutting her off wasn't just cruel, it was robbing Lily of one of the few stable, loving relationships in her life. But here's where things got interesting. Lily mentioned something about Emily yelling at Jason one night. She was really mad, Lily said, her voice dropping to a whisper. She kept saying it's his fault that Grandma's still in touch with you. That's when it clicked. Emily didn't just dislike me, she saw me as a threat. My loyalty to Summer, my history with Jason, my bond with Lily, it all stood in the way of her total control. And now, she was trying to sever those ties completely. I decided it was time to confront Jason directly. I caught him after work, waiting outside his office so he couldn't dodge me. When he saw me, his jaw tightened, and he tried to brush past me, but I blocked his path. We need to talk, I said firmly. I have nothing to say to you, he shot back, already reaching for his car door. Fine, I said. Then just listen. He hesitated, clearly torn between anger and curiosity, but finally crossed his arms and said, make it quick. I didn't hold back. I told him everything, how Emily had manipulated Summer, how she'd isolated him from his own mother, and how Lily was caught in the middle. I even mentioned Derek and the things he'd shared about Emily's past. Jason's reaction was complicated. At first, he laughed bitterly. So now you're digging into my wife's history? That's low, even for you. But then I hit him with the thing I knew would get through, Lily. I told him what she'd said about missing Summer and how much the tension at home was affecting her. You're not just losing your mom, Jason, I said. You're losing your daughter too. That seemed to land. His face softened for a moment, and I thought maybe, just maybe, I was getting through to him. But then he shook his head. You don't know what you're talking about, he said, his voice quieter now but still firm. Emily's not perfect, but she's not the monster you're making her out to be. She's been through a lot, and I'm not going to turn on her just because you don't like her. He got in his car and drove off, leaving me standing there feeling like I'd just been sucker punched. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was sad, for Jason, for Lily, for Summer. Emily had her claws so deep into him that he couldn't see what was right in front of him. But I wasn't giving up. If Jason wouldn't listen to me, maybe he'd listen to someone else. Derek had already agreed to help, and I knew there were others, people from Emily's past who might be willing to come forward. I was going to build a case so solid, so undeniable, that even Jason couldn't ignore it. The fight was just beginning. After my conversation with Jason, I realized I couldn't do this alone. Emily had too much control over him, and I needed people who could break through her lies. Derek was a start, but I needed more. So I reached out to the only other person who might have a reason to stand up to Emily, Summer's granddaughter Lily. Lily didn't need much convincing. The kid's wise beyond her years, and she already knew something was off. The tricky part was figuring out how to loop her in without putting her in Emily's crosshairs. I didn't want her to feel like she was betraying her parents, but at the same time, she deserved to know the truth about what was going on. One afternoon, I took Lily out for pizza after school. I could tell she was holding something back, so I waited until she was halfway through her slice before asking, "Hey, has your dad said anything about me lately?" She looked down at her plate, fidgeting with the crust. "He says you're trying to make trouble for Mom," she admitted. "What do you think?" I asked, keeping my tone as light as I could. Lily hesitated, then said, "I think you're the only one who really listens to Grandma. And I don't think Mom likes that." That was all I needed to hear. I leaned in a little closer and said, "Lily, I'm trying to help your grandma because I think she's being treated unfairly. But I need your help. Only if you're comfortable, though." She nodded slowly, her expression serious. "What do you want me to do?" I kept it simple, just keep being honest. If you hear or see anything that doesn't sit right with you, let me know. And if you ever feel like you can't talk to your dad or your mom about something, you can always talk to me or your grandma. She agreed, and I could see a mix of relief and determination in her eyes. Next, I circled back to Derek. I told him about my conversation with Jason and how much of a chokehold Emily had on him. Derek wasn't surprised. "That's her MO," he said. "She isolates people, makes them dependent on her, then turns them against anyone who might see through her." Derek had a few ideas about people from Emily's past who might be willing to talk. One name stood out, Lisa, an old coworker from the company where Emily's boss had died. "Lisa hated Emily," Derek said. "If anyone knows the dirt on her, it's Lisa." It took some digging, but I eventually tracked Lisa down. She was hesitant at first, but when I mentioned Emily's name, she sighed and said, "What's she done now?" I didn't hold back. I told her about Summer, Jason, and the situation with Lily. By the time I finished, Lisa was shaking her head. "That woman's a menace," she said. "She ruined my life once, and I'm not surprised she's doing it to someone else." Lisa told me Emily had manipulated their boss into trusting her, only to use that trust against him. She was gunning for his job, Lisa said. And when he didn't give her what she wanted, she made his life hell. I'm not saying she pushed him down those stairs, but let's just say she didn't shed any tears when it happened. I asked Lisa if she'd be willing to talk to Jason or share her story with someone who could help. She hesitated, then nodded. "If it means stopping her from hurting anyone else, I'll do it." With Derek and Lisa on board, I started putting together a plan. I wanted to confront Emily, but not until I had undeniable proof of her manipulations. That's when I remembered something Derek had said during our first meeting. Emily hates losing control. If I could shake her confidence, make her realize people were starting to see through her lies, maybe, just maybe, she'd slip up. But I knew I had to tread carefully. Emily wasn't just manipulative, she was dangerous. And if she thought I was coming for her, she'd come for me first. Next step? A risky meeting that could blow this whole thing wide open, or put me in Emily's crosshairs. More on that soon. This fight is far from over. Derek called me late one evening, saying he had someone I needed to meet. "She's scared, but she's got information that could change everything," he said. "She worked with Emily years ago, and trust me, you're going to want to hear her story." We agreed to meet at a diner on the outskirts of town, somewhere quiet, away from prying eyes. I didn't know what to expect, but when I got there, Derek was already sitting with a woman who looked nervous, her hands fidgeting around her coffee cup. "This is Claire," Derek said. "She used to work under Emily at that second job she left in a hurry." I introduced myself, trying to put her at ease. "Thanks for coming, Claire. I know this can't be easy. She gave me a weak smile and said, "It's not, but someone needs to stop her." Claire's story sent chills down my spine. She described how Emily manipulated their workplace like a puppeteer. She made people turn on each other, Claire said. She'd spread rumors, play favorites, and then swoop in to mediate when things got bad. Everyone thought she was helping, but she was the one causing the problems in the first place. Then Claire dropped the real bombshell. Emily had been caught embezzling funds from the company. She was smart about it, small amounts here and there, just enough to fly under the radar, Claire explained. But one of the accountants noticed discrepancies. That's when Emily turned on him. According to Claire, Emily framed the accountant for stealing, twisting evidence to make it look like he was the one taking money. She destroyed his career, Claire said, her voice trembling. He tried to fight it, but Emily had already poisoned everyone against him. He lost his job, his reputation, everything. I asked if Claire had any proof. She hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out a USB drive. "I kept this," she said. "It's old, but it's got emails and reports that show what she was doing." Derek and I exchanged a look. This was exactly the kind of evidence we needed. The next step was deciding how to use it. Claire was willing to testify if it came to that, but we needed to be strategic. Confronting Emily directly wasn't an option, not yet. She was too good at spinning the narrative, and we couldn't risk her turning Jason even further against us. Instead, I decided to focus on Jason. If I could show him the emails and reports, maybe it would open his eyes to who Emily really was. But I knew I couldn't just hand them over and expect him to believe me. I needed to set the stage carefully. A week later, I invited Jason to meet me for coffee. He was hesitant, but I played the Lily card, saying we needed to talk about how the situation was affecting her. That got him to agree. When he arrived, he looked guarded, like he was ready for a fight. I didn't waste any time. "Jason, I know you think I'm out to get Emily, but I need you to hear me out. Just this once." He sighed but nodded. "Go on." I slid the USB drive across the table. "This has emails and documents from one of Emily's old jobs. They show how she manipulated people and framed an innocent man. It's not gossip, Jason, it's evidence." His face hardened. "This is ridiculous. You're digging through her past now? What does this have to do with our family?" "Everything," I said firmly. "This isn't just about her past, it's about a pattern. She isolates people, turns them against each other, and destroys anyone who gets in her way. She's doing it to your mom, and she's doing it to you." Jason didn't say anything for a long time. He just stared at the USB drive like it was a ticking time bomb. Finally, he muttered, "I'll look at it. But don't expect me to take your side on this." "It's not about sides," I said. "It's about the truth." As I watched him leave, I felt a strange mix of hope and dread. If he actually looked at the evidence, it might be enough to shake his faith in Emily. But if he told her about it before confronting her, well, that could backfire in ways I wasn't ready for. Now, it was a waiting game. The stakes were getting higher, and Emily was bound to notice the cracks forming in her web of lies. I just hoped we were ready for whatever came next. It didn't take long for Emily to catch wind of what was happening. Jason must have shown her the USB drive because 2 days later, I got a call from Summer, her voice shaky and nervous. "Mark, Emily's here. She's saying all kinds of things about you. You need to come over." I didn't hesitate. When I arrived at Summer's temporary apartment, Emily was already in full performance mode. She stood in the living room, arms crossed, her voice dripping with fake concern. Jason was there too, looking conflicted, like he wasn't sure which side to take. "Oh, look who decided to show up," Emily sneered when she saw me. "The self-appointed savior of this family." I kept my voice calm. "I'm here because Summer called me. What's going on?" Emily didn't waste time. "What's going on is that you're trying to tear this family apart. Digging into my past? Spreading lies to Jason? What kind of friend does that?" Jason glanced at me, and I could see the doubt in his eyes. He hadn't made up his mind yet, which meant there was still a chance to reach him. "I'm not spreading lies," I said evenly. "I gave Jason evidence. If it's not true, why are you so worried?" Emily's face twisted into a mock laugh. "Evidence? You mean the nonsense you got from Derek and whatever other bitter people you dragged into this? It's pathetic, Mark. You're obsessed with me because you can't stand seeing Jason happy." That hit a nerve, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I turned to Jason. Did you look at the emails, Jason? Did you actually read them? He hesitated, then nodded. I looked at them. And I pressed. Jason sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. They don't paint a good picture, Emily. I'll be honest about that. But I don't know if it's the whole story. Emily's tone shifted instantly, soft, almost pleading. Jason, you know me better than anyone. I've told you about my past, how people have tried to tear me down because I'm a strong woman. These people, Derek, Lisa, they're just jealous. And now Mark's buying into their lies because he's got some grudge against me. I couldn't believe the audacity. A strong woman doesn't manipulate and isolate people, Emily. This isn't about jealousy, it's about accountability. Emily stepped closer to Jason, putting a hand on his arm. You see what he's doing? He's trying to turn you against me, Jason. Against your wife. Jason looked torn, his eyes darting between us. I don't know what to believe anymore. The fallout from that confrontation hit faster than I expected. The very next day, I started getting strange looks from people I barely knew, neighbors, acquaintances, even the barista at my favorite coffee shop. By lunch, it became clear why. Emily had started a full-blown smear campaign. It started with whispers and snowballed into accusations. According to Emily's version of events, I was obsessed with Summer, using her as an excuse to meddle in their family. She implied I had ulterior motives for helping Summer, hinting at things so outrageous they bordered on absurd. She's playing dirty, Derek said when I called him to vent. Classic Emily. When she feels cornered, she makes herself the victim and turns everyone else into the villain. The hardest part wasn't the rumors, it was how Jason reacted. Instead of seeing Emily's manipulations for what they were, he doubled down on defending her. When I called to check in, he answered with a cold, clipped tone. You need to stop, Mark, he said. I don't know what your problem is, but you're crossing lines. Emily's my wife, and I'm not going to let you drag her through the mud. I'm not dragging her through the mud, Jason, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I'm trying to protect you, and Lily. She's not who you think she is. You don't know her like I do, he snapped. Just leave us alone. And then he hung up. For a couple of days, it felt like I was losing. Emily was pulling the strings, and I was her scapegoat. But then, out of nowhere, I got a call from an unexpected ally, Lily. She'd overheard Jason and Emily arguing, and what she heard had shaken her. They were talking about you, she said, her voice small but steady. Mom said you're a threat, and she needs to handle you before you ruin everything. That sent a chill down my spine. I knew Emily was dangerous, but hearing it from Lily made it all too real. Lily, are you okay? I asked. She hesitated, then said, I'm fine. But I'm scared. Mom's been really mad lately, and Dad keeps telling her to calm down, but she just yells at him. I didn't want to drag Lily into this any more than I already had, but I also couldn't ignore her. Thank you for telling me, Lily. If you ever feel unsafe or need to talk, you can call me any time, okay? Okay, she said. And, don't let Mom scare you, Uncle Mark. You're the only one trying to help Grandma. That conversation gave me the push I needed to keep fighting. I called Derek and Lisa and told them it was time to move to the next phase of the plan, exposing Emily publicly. Lisa was hesitant. Are you sure about this? If we go public, she's going to come after all of us. She already is, I said. If we don't push back, she wins. And I'm not letting her destroy any more lives. Derek agreed. I'll handle the groundwork. There are people I know who'd be happy to share their stories about Emily. Once we have enough, we'll take it to someone who can make it count. Maybe the press, maybe the police. It was a risky move, but it was the only way forward. If Emily wanted to play dirty, we'd fight back with the truth. That evening, Summer and I sat down to talk about everything that had happened. She looked exhausted, the weight of it all clearly wearing on her. Mark, are you sure about this? She asked. Emily doesn't play fair. If we go after her, there's no going back. I know, I said. But I also know this isn't just about us. If we don't stop her, she'll keep doing this. To Jason, to Lily, to anyone who gets in her way. Someone has to stand up to her. Summer nodded, a spark of determination lighting up her tired eyes. Then let's do it, she said. It wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in days, I felt like we had a real chance. Emily might be a master manipulator, but she wasn't invincible. And with the right people on our side, we might just be able to bring her down. The storm was far from over, but we were ready to fight. Derek worked fast, reaching out to people from Emily's past. Within a week, he compiled a list of names, former coworkers, old acquaintances, and even a couple of neighbors. The stories they shared painted a damning picture of Emily's manipulations. One former coworker, a guy named Pete, said Emily had sabotaged his promotion by spreading rumors that he was stealing office supplies. She didn't even need the promotion, Pete told Derek. She just wanted me out of the way. She thrives on chaos. Another person, a neighbor from Emily's previous home, described how Emily had gotten into a feud with an elderly couple next door. She told the HMA they were running an illegal daycare because they babysat their grandkids during the week, the neighbor said. It was insane. They almost lost their house over the fines. Derek also tracked down an ex-boyfriend of Emily's, a man named Scott. His story was the most chilling. Emily doesn't just hurt people, she makes them doubt their own sanity, he said. She'd hide my things, then act like I was losing my mind when I couldn't find them. She manipulated me until I didn't even recognize myself anymore. With every new account, the pattern became clearer. Emily wasn't just manipulative, she was calculated, ruthless, and willing to destroy anyone who stood in her way. While Derek was gathering these testimonies, Lisa dug into the USB drive she'd given me. She found financial records and emails that proved Emily had been embezzling from her old job. The evidence was solid enough to warrant an investigation, but Lisa wanted to be cautious. We should take this to someone who can actually do something about it, she said. I agreed. We decided to contact a journalist, a local reporter known for uncovering corruption in small-town politics and business. Derek had a connection and set up a meeting. The day of the meeting, I was nervous. This was the biggest step yet, and if it backfired, Emily would know exactly who to target. But as soon as we sat down with the reporter, a woman named Grace, my nerves started to settle. She was sharp, direct, and clearly interested in the story. You've got everything I need to start digging, Grace said after looking through the documents and listening to our accounts. If even half of this holds up, Emily's in serious trouble. She promised to start investigating immediately and to keep us updated. But you should be prepared, she warned. If this goes public, she's going to fight back hard. Meanwhile, Emily wasn't sitting idle. Summer told me that Jason had been more distant than ever, barely speaking to her when he dropped Lily off for visits. He's not himself, Summer said one night, tears in her eyes. He's so cold. I don't know how to reach him. I tried calling Jason, but it went straight to voicemail. The next day, I got a text from him. Stop involving other people in this. Leave Emily alone, or I'll make sure you regret it. It wasn't like Jason to send something so hostile, and I couldn't help but wonder if Emily had written it herself. Either way, it was clear we were running out of time. 2 days later, Grace called me with an update. Mark, this is bigger than I thought, she said. I found records tying Emily to at least 2 other workplace scandals and a civil lawsuit that was quietly settled. It's all connected. What happens next? I asked. I'm writing the story, Grace said. It'll take a few more days to finalize everything, but when it's published, people will know who Emily really is. The article dropped early on a Monday morning. Grace didn't hold back. She detailed Emily's history of manipulation, the workplace scandals, the financial fraud, and the lawsuit settlements. She even included excerpts from the emails on the USB drive, proving Emily's schemes weren't just rumors. The headline read, "Behind the Smile, the Dark Side of Emily Carter's Ambitions." Within hours, the story started circulating. Social media blew up, and people from Emily's past began coming forward with their own stories. Grace published follow-ups, adding even more fuel to the fire. By mid-morning, I got a frantic call from Derek. Mark, it's everywhere. Emily's reputation is toast. I just saw the HWay neighbor comment on the article with her own story. This is snowballing. I felt a mix of relief and dread. The truth was out, but I knew Emily wouldn't go down quietly. Sure enough, Emily went on the offensive. By noon, she had issued a statement, calling the article a coordinated attack by jealous and bitter individuals. She didn't deny the claims outright, but she framed herself as a victim of a smear campaign. Jason, predictably, stood by her. He posted on his social media, saying, "My wife is the strongest person I know. We won't let lies tear us apart." Reading that made my stomach turn. I couldn't understand how he was still defending her after everything that had come out. Summer called me later that day, her voice shaking. "Mark, Jason just called. He was yelling, saying the article was your fault and that you're poisoning Lily against him." "What did you say?" I asked. I told him the truth, that Lily loves him but she's scared of Emily. And I told him I didn't know about the article until it was published. How did he take that? She hesitated. "Not well. He said he's thinking about cutting all contact with me and Lily." Hearing that hit like a punch to the gut. Jason was spiraling, and Emily was dragging him down with her. Later that evening, I got a text from Lily. It was a single word, "Help." I immediately called her, but it went straight to voicemail. Panicked, I called Summer. "She's with Jason and Emily tonight," Summer said, sounding as worried as I felt. "Should we call the police?" "No," I said. "Not yet. Let me go over there and check on her first." I drove to Jason's house, my heart pounding the whole way. When I got there, the lights were on, but no one answered the door. I knocked again, harder this time, and called out, "Jason, it's Mark. I need to see Lily." Finally, Jason opened the door, his face red with anger. "You need to leave, Mark," he said through clenched teeth. "Not until I see Lily," I said, standing my ground. "She's fine," he snapped. "You have no right to barge in here." "Then let me talk to her," I insisted. Jason hesitated, then finally stepped aside. Lily was sitting on the couch, her face pale and tear-streaked. Emily was nowhere in sight. "Uncle Mark." Lily cried, running over to me. She clung to my side, trembling. "What happened?" I asked her gently. She glanced at Jason, then back at me. "Mom and Dad were fighting about you," she whispered. "Mom said she wished you were gone forever." Jason's face softened slightly, but he stayed silent. I turned to him. "Jason, this is what I've been trying to tell you. Emily's anger and manipulation are tearing your family apart. Look at Lily, she's scared. This isn't normal." For a moment, Jason looked like he might break, but then his defenses snapped back into place. "You need to go," he said again, his voice shaking. I nodded and knelt down to Lily's level. "If you ever need me, you call, okay? No matter what." She nodded, clinging to me for another moment before Jason gently pulled her away. Driving home, I felt a mix of frustration and guilt. I'd gotten through to Lily, but Jason was still under Emily's spell. And now Emily knew I wasn't backing down. The fallout from the article was only beginning, and things were bound to get worse. But I wasn't giving up. I couldn't. Not when Lily and Summer needed me the most. The fallout from the article spiraled fast, and Emily wasn't pulling any punches. By Wednesday, rumors about me had reached my workplace. A coworker stopped me in the break room and asked, "Hey Mark, did you really stalk some guy's wife?" I froze. Emily's smear campaign was spreading beyond Jason's circle. I didn't know how she was doing it, but she was planting seeds of doubt everywhere. "No," I said firmly, keeping my voice steady. "That's not true. It's part of a lie someone's spreading because I stood up for a friend." The coworker nodded, but didn't seem convinced. That night, I got an email from HR. "We need to discuss recent allegations. Please come to my office tomorrow morning." I barely slept. Emily was trying to destroy my life now, and she was good at it. The next morning, the meeting with HR was tense but manageable. They had heard about the article and Emily's claims that I was harassing her family. I explained the situation calmly, pointing out that the article was about Emily's behavior, not mine. The HR rep seemed satisfied, but the damage was done. People at work were whispering, looking at me differently. Emily's poison was spreading, and I couldn't stop it. Meanwhile, Jason was falling deeper into Emily's web. Summer called me one evening, her voice breaking. "Jason's not letting me see Lily," she said. "He says I'm just as bad as you, that I'm part of the problem." I clenched my fists, trying to stay calm. "We'll figure this out," I said. "He can't keep her away from you forever." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true. 2 days later, Derek called with an update. "Grace's article is still gaining traction," he said. "But Emily's pushing back hard. She's threatening to sue for defamation." I sighed. "Of course she is. She won't go down without a fight." "Good news is, Grace isn't backing down," Derek continued. "She's got her legal team ready, and they're confident the evidence will hold up in court." That was a relief, But it didn't solve the immediate problem. Jason and Lily were still trapped in Emily's web, and I was running out of ways to reach them. The breaking point came on a Saturday afternoon. I was at home, trying to unwind, when my phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Dad and Mom are fighting again. I'm scared. Can you come?" My heart raced. I called Summer and told her what was happening. "We can't let this keep happening," I said. "Lily needs to feel safe." Summer agreed, and we decided it was time to take legal action. I called a lawyer the next day and explained everything: Emily's manipulation, the article, Jason's behavior, and Lily's distress. The lawyer nodded as he took notes. "This is a complicated case," he said. "But if we can prove that Lily's well-being is at risk, we might be able to petition for custody or at least supervised visits for Summer." It wasn't the solution I wanted, but it was a start. That night, I couldn't shake the image of Lily huddled on the couch, scared and crying. Emily was unraveling, and Jason was too blind to see it. But I had to believe there was still a way to get through to him. Because if I didn't, I wasn't sure how much longer Lily could hold on. The fight wasn't just about exposing Emily anymore. It was about protecting Lily, no matter the cost. The day after we spoke to the lawyer, Summer and I began gathering everything we had to support her case: text messages from Lily, notes from Derek and Lisa, and copies of Grace's article. It was clear to everyone involved that Emily's behavior was putting Lily in an unstable environment. But the legal process was slow, and Emily wasn't slowing down. Jason stopped returning any calls from Summer. When she tried showing up at their house, he refused to let her in. Worse, Emily had started using Lily as a pawn. "She told me I'm not allowed to talk to you," Lily said in a hushed phone call. "Mom says you're trying to take me away from her and Dad." I swallowed my anger. "Lily, listen to me. No one's trying to take you away. We just want to make sure you're safe, okay?" She sniffled but didn't say anything. The call ended shortly after, leaving me feeling helpless. That night, I met with Derek to brainstorm. "We need something big," I said. "Something that'll make Jason wake up and see what's happening." Derek frowned, leaning back in his chair. Jason's in denial. The only way he's going to believe anything is if he sees Emily's true colors for himself. "How do we make that happen?" I asked. Derek hesitated, then said, "We set a trap." The plan was risky, but it was all we had. Derek agreed to reach out to Emily under the guise of wanting to reconcile. He'd tell her he was willing to bury the hatchet if they could meet to talk things out. "If she thinks I'm coming around, she'll let her guard down," Derek said. "And if she slips up, we'll be there to catch it." I wasn't thrilled about using deception, but we needed something concrete, something Jason couldn't deny. The meeting was set for a Thursday evening at a quiet restaurant. I stayed outside, keeping a low profile, while Derek went in to meet Emily. He brought a small recording device hidden in his pocket, just in case she said anything incriminating. From my spot in the parking lot, I watched as Emily walked in, her usual confident stride masking the storm brewing underneath. Derek had already ordered drinks, and they quickly got to talking. It didn't take long for Emily's true nature to surface. Through the crackling audio feed Derek had connected to my phone, I heard her voice, low and venomous. "You think Mark and Summer are going to save you," she sneered. "They're just as pathetic as the rest of you." "I always win, Derek. Always. Jason knows that, and soon everyone else will too." Derek kept his cool. "What about Lily? Do you think dragging her into all this is fair?" Emily laughed bitterly. "Lily? She'll believe whatever I tell her. Kids are easy. Jason's the one I have to keep in line." Hearing that made my blood boil, but I stayed put. We needed this. Then Emily said something that changed everything. "If they keep pushing, I'll take Lily and disappear. I've done it before, and I'll do it again." I froze. What did she mean, done it before? After the meeting, Derek handed me the recording. "I think we've got enough," he said grimly. He was right. Between Emily's threat to disappear and her confession about manipulating Jason, we finally had something undeniable. The next step was taking the recording to the lawyer. He listened intently, nodding as we played it back. "This is solid," he said. "If we present this in court, it could sway things in Summer's favor." That night, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. We were closer than ever to exposing Emily and protecting Lily, but I couldn't shake the fear of what Emily might do next. Because if her threat to take Lily was real, we were running out of time. The recording changed everything. Summer's lawyer acted quickly, filing for an emergency hearing to address Lily's safety. He argued that Emily's threat to take Lily and disappear, combined with her manipulative behavior, warranted immediate court intervention. Emily, of course, didn't take it lying down. She filed a counterclaim, accusing Summer, and me, of harassment and defamation. She painted herself as a loving mother under attack by vengeful in-laws and an obsessive family friend. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. Summer and I spent every waking moment preparing, gathering more evidence, reviewing Grace's articles, and rehearsing what we would say in court. Lily's well-being was at stake, and we couldn't afford to leave anything to chance. The courtroom was tense the morning of the hearing. Emily walked in with Jason by her side, her face calm but her eyes cold. Jason looked like a shell of himself, exhausted, conflicted, and clearly out of his depth. When it was my turn to testify, I focused on the facts. I told the court about the recording, the article, and Lily's frightened phone calls. I emphasized that my only goal was to protect her, not to interfere with Emily's family. The lawyer played the recording, and the courtroom went silent as Emily's words echoed through the speakers. If they keep pushing, I'll take Lily and disappear. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. I glanced at Jason as the recording played. His face paled, and for a moment, I saw something crack behind his eyes. Emily's lawyer tried to dismiss the recording as taken out of context, but the judge didn't seem convinced. When Summer took the stand, she spoke with quiet strength, describing how she'd been pushed out of Lily's life and how much her granddaughter meant to her. I've always tried to give Jason and Emily space to raise Lily their way, she said. But I can't stay silent when I see my granddaughter in distress. She deserves to feel safe and loved. The judge nodded thoughtfully, taking notes. When it was Emily's turn to testify, she turned on the charm, playing the role of the devoted mother and unfairly targeted wife. She painted Summer and me as controlling and overbearing, claiming we were trying to turn Jason and Lily against her. But when the judge asked about the recording, her demeanor faltered. I was angry, she said, her voice shaky. I didn't mean it literally. Her explanation rang hollow, and I could see Jason glancing at her uncertainly. After hours of testimony, the judge made her decision. She granted Summer supervised visitation rights with Lily and ordered a temporary restraining order against Emily to prevent her from taking Lily out of state. It wasn't a full victory, but it was a step in the right direction. Summer hugged me tightly as we left the courtroom, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Mark," she whispered, "for not giving up." Jason didn't say a word to me as he left with Emily, but I caught him looking back at us, his expression unreadable. I hoped the cracks in Emily's facade were starting to show for him, too. That evening, Summer and I sat with Lily during her first supervised visit. She seemed lighter, more relaxed, and even smiled when Summer baked her favorite cookies. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. But I knew the fight wasn't over. Emily wouldn't give up easily, and Jason was still under her control. The question now was how far Emily would go to regain the upper hand, and whether we were ready for what came next.